Hi, guys. Thanks for coming on to the show today for episode 8 of Heroes Manufactured Live. Today we've got another great guest coming on board, Mr. Andrew Thomas. So we're going to get into it in a couple of moments here. Did want to just mention to you guys to check us out online. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great new episodes coming soon. Another announcement I made in our last week's episode that we do have coming within the next week or so. We're going to have the original film Heroes Manufactured released on YouTube, so definitely check it out. You can see the whole movie free of charge for about a week. May try to push that for 2 weeks, but yeah, you can definitely check out the original film, which has Stanley in it, Kevin Smith, number of great artists. Andrew himself was actually in it. So that's going to be pretty cool for you to check that out. Plus, after the show, after the original movie, you will have a 40-minute commentary with a lot of the original cast from the movie, the original interviews that we did, and some of the producers behind the show, including myself. So definitely check it out, guys. We're going to get right into it here with Andrew. And after the show, we're going to do a quick segment with regards to the Comics Vault and the toy and collectible segment. So let's bring Andrew in. Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Great. Listen, man, it's great having you on the show. It's been some time. I mean, since I've seen you at Gotham Central and some of the other
Oh,
events.
definitely. Yeah, it's been a hot minute, hasn't it?
Yeah, hot minute indeed. So, how first of all, how have you been? I mean, since this whole pandemic started and everything.
Well, we've been okay. I mean, with three kids now, because as of January, we had a little girl.
Yeah, beautiful little
Um,
girl, by the way. I have to say, I saw that couple of posts you put up online. She's so cute.
So I mean, we're doing that. She's been, she's fantastic, as well as my two boys. We're doing a lot of the online e-learning, so we've been, pulling double duties as teachers as well. So it's been a fun challenge. They're definitely um, eager to get back outside again. Um, but other than that, it's for me, it's business as usual almost because I do all my work, from
Yeah.
home. I work from home, and it's so nothing really has changed that much apart from the kids in the school and another baby. So
No, for sure. And I mean, that kind of is. I mean, with work and school and kids. I mean, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about kind of how you've been, been dealing with work, because I know you're. I mean, as an artist, you work from home typically as well, correct?
yeah, basically almost exclusively. Whether it's the lettering, it's the drawing, it's all that stuff. Yeah, it's all been at home,
Yeah, no,
and
it's great.
it's
And
it has its ups and downs. I mean, the upside is you don't have to travel anywhere for work, every day. But at the same time, there's a lot of ways to distract you from work,
oh, of
especially
course.
when you're at home. So it's trying to balance the work life with your regular life. That line that
Work
divides it
balance,
is
yeah.
very blurred.
No, for sure. Let's get right into it. I mean, if you can tell us a little bit about kind of your story. I mean, you mentioned to me that you were involved in gaming in the past, in comics, and how did that come about? Like, how did you get involved with comic books? I mean, if you can tell us, share a little bit about your personal story.
So yeah, I mean, I got married really young, and I had my first my first kid at 22, and this was right around the time I went to college for game design, and I was really still unsure what I wanted to do, with my life at the time. But there was this really cool program at this. It was a small private college in Toronto. Where the class sizes would be smaller, so I mean, like, I thought that this would be, a great opportunity to learn. And there was tons of great classes that was part of the program, and which was was like 3D animation, audio engineering, programming, which, that part was probably my least favorite because
Yeah.
it's so technical, and I'm probably I'm not exactly the most tech savvy person. So that was something I wanted to get into. Even as a kid, I've always wanted to do something with illustration. I've always wanted to like work for Disney or something like that. And so I thought game design was a great avenue into it. But after I graduated, I was pretty discouraged to find out that a lot of the job openings that when I was job hunting, and a lot of the postings were specifically all about the technical programming side, and not a lot of art.
A lot more
And
development, I guess, right? That's what it.
yeah,
I mean, and when we talk development, I mean, it's funny because there's the artistic development, which is one thing, which is what you do, and then there's the programming development, which is another aspect of development, which isn't always fun, but if you're good at it, you got a job, right?
yeah, it's a completely different. It is a language, and it's and learning that language was challenging, and and I picked up bits and pieces here and there, but not enough to make a career out of it. So it was discouraging. And then basically after that, I started doing some freelance work. I started posting myself on these job boards and websites. Freelance graphic designer, that kind of thing. So I would pick up the odd client here and there. I mean, that's not to say I didn't actually end up making games. I actually did.
Yeah, and I mean this is this is some stuff you've done here back in 2012 to 2013, correct?
Yeah. So the Going Bananas was the student game, or basically our culminative project in at the school. It was like just 6 of us, and I was primarily the lead character animator, and I think layout animator as well. So that little monkey character, that was me, and yeah, he goes, jumps around branches and collects bananas and all that stuff. So that was
That's awesome.
that was our school
That's
project.
awesome. And these other games here? I mean, these
And
are
this one, yeah, that's Bubble Stars, and that was my only other game that was the only game that I was ever hired to create or to. So that was my only other job that involved game design. So that was an iPhone app that basically I did all the graphics for all the assets.
still very cool. I mean, I love it, and I mean, for anyone watching, I mean, if you're into comics and gaming, this guy is like, you speak to that, right? Like, and I mean, how did that get you into comics then? Like, because comics is your big thing now, right?
It is, and it was. I think it was a gradual transition because even in college, I was doing a lot of traditional animation and illustrations, especially even for that game. I would actually take, or draw the image for the character, and then I think it was in Flash, I would be animating all his movements, and every
Oh,
single
I hate
frame
Flash.
was every single frame was hand drawn.
Wow.
Especially for that character specifically, and I think the villain too, but I
Oh,
don't
wow.
recall. Yeah, those were the only 2 hand drawn aspects of the game, and the rest of everything was digital. But it was the traditional illustration that kind of gave me that transition over to comics, because I started just drawing Batman and superheroes and looking at stuff because big comic reader and lover for the genre itself.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and I ended up getting some prints done, and then I just said, hell, let's just go get a table at a convention and see what happens. So
That's pretty awesome. I mean, and I want to kind of take people into some of these books here just to show them a little bit about what you're up to. I mean, this is Auric of the Great White North. I know we spoke to Sharon Gauthier a couple weeks back, a few weeks back actually, and she's one that you've worked with in the past, correct?
yeah, Sharon has been on board since the beginning of Auric,
Oh wow.
and yeah, and because she and Davis, they go back even further with their own project, which I believe Sharon was talking about it when she was on the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, Davis suggested her, and I saw her work, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, and her colors absolutely just bring my line art, and it just leaps off the page. She really excels at what she does with the colors.
No, she definitely does amazing work. And I mean, just to let people know here, I'm sharing some information here. If people want to check out some of your stuff on Instagram, I included a site here for Canadian comic books, .fandom.com. There's more information there about Andrew, as well as your website there for Great North Comics. So definitely check that out, guys. And now that, like, this is another one that I saw that you sent out, Posthuman. What's that about?
Yeah, so this is my very first published comic, and this was a project that I was really passionate about at the beginning, because the whole idea was, I wanted to take the premise of what if Inspector Gadget, this the old Inspector Gadget cartoon, which was very cartoony and campy, and what if we took that and made it into a gritty reboot setting, post-apocalyptic kind of thing. Beautiful. So that was it, and I got to work with a really talented writer, Tristan Null, who lives in the States, and we came up with this first issue, which was received fairly well, but after a while, there were some creative differences here and there, and then we just kind of shelved it for indefinitely. And that was right around the time when I met Davis through Facebook, and then we started talking about Oryx. So kind of just one project kind of came forward, and that one stayed on the shelf for now.
No, it's great. You know what? I actually got to meet the voice of the original Inspector Gadget. So when you said that, I was like, wow, that's cool.
Oh, you mean
he's a Canadian actor? He's an actor union member. Met him a few years back. I'm actually an actor union member myself from years ago. Worked in the business, so it's nice to see that you're involved with that kind of stuff. I mean,
you're talking about Ivan Sherry?
Yes.
The one who's currently doing the voice of it on the Teletoon Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
I met him too. He's a great guy.
Great guy. And I mean, he's been involved in the industry for years too. So I mean, and so that's what's cool about this industry, is that you get to meet people from all different walks of life. You get to meet people in the comics business, in the film entertainment industry, the voice actors, all that. So I mean, and here's another great one here. I just want to go over for ChapterHouse. I mean, you've been doing a lot of work with ChapterHouse over the last little while. I mean, you're good friends with Richard Comley. I know you've worked with him on the Tri-City Comic-Con. How's all that been for you?
Oh man, it's definitely been an experience. It's hard to really put into words, but it's really been exciting being a part of this, this Canuck, legacy, this whole revamping of the character. I mean, I was before. I would say prior to my comic days, I vaguely knew who Captain Canuck was. You would hear it in passing, and it was almost kind of like that. It was almost like a joke or a humorous anecdote of having a Canadian version of Captain America. But getting actually involved and getting to be a part of their growing universe, that's a very rewarding experience to see how much or how it far it has taken off.
And I mean, you even have this Canuck Adventures for kids, which is amazing. I mean, I remember when you did the release of this. I think you were at Gotham Central. You also did stuff at Fan Expo. Last year. I mean, this was, or sorry, 2 years now. But this is awesome. I mean, you're doing kids books, adult books, kind of everything.
Canuck Adventures definitely was a huge passion project, and something I've definitely been pushing for a while. Because it was
having kids inspired you to do this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listening to my kids talk and their imaginations, their sense of wonderment and all that definitely is a big inspiration. And I pitched a version of this to ChapterHouse even before my involvement, and saying, hey, this this needs to happen. We need a kids book part of your library.
Well, it's like, because I see the human lizard there. I see Captain Canuck. This is awesome. This is like Muppet Babies, but for Canadians, right?
Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, I love it. I love what you do, Andrew. I've always been a fan of your work. I actually own a few commissions that you got done for me a while back. really cool Supergirl and a Wolverine that you did a while back.
Yep. Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'll definitely post those on the group for people to watch and take a look at, because I even got them graded. I mean, there's phenomenal work. I love the way you color as well. I mean, like whether it's digitally or not. I mean, I know you also have Sharon doing some of that work with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just amazing. I mean, this year's a little bit more of the Canuck series you got there, the Canuck Kids show. Sorry, the Canuck, the
Adventures
adventures,
book.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is pretty awesome that you like the work you've done here. So this is from like 2015 to present day, from what I see with the image.
Yeah.
So you've been working with them for about at least what 4 or 5 years now?
It seems like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah.
And
Yeah. It really seems it's a blink of an eye, and it's amazing how much time has passed already.
And yeah, so one other thing I'm looking here. I mean, you have also this Auric, these Auric cards. So when was this made? This was recent?
So this is still in development. Oryx Legion Strike is a trading card game based on the Oryx series, and this is going back to my game design roots. So I built this game, kind of from the ground up. It's kind of like it's a spin on a classic formula. Whereas you have, you have your character card. It's almost like playing Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not as intense as like Magic or anything like that. But what I think is unique about this is that it actually has more than one game mechanic. You have the basic player versus player element where you're battling your cards against their cards. But it also has a multiplayer cooperative element, which is almost kind of like a party game aspect to it.
So you're saying that there's like a party element to the game where you get to you can do either the player versus player or get the group involved.
Exactly, yeah. So there is more than one way to play the game, and it's currently in its basically its early beta phase. We're still testing it out, and we have a test deck here, and I play it with my kids all the time. It's to kind of find make sure it's well balanced and everything like that. It's my first actual foray into making a card game itself, but learning what I did in college, I know how to kind of structure that and to find out what how to build it and make it balanced and whatnot.
It looks great. I mean, and the other thing, I guess, I noticed you worked on Archie, which is a really cool thing, to have on your portfolio. And I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about how it was working, how it's been working on Archie. And I mean, you're still kind of involved with them, right?
Yeah. So it kind of started because I was doing lettering for Dan Parent and Fernando Ruiz on their series Die Kitty Die. And both of them are well known alumni artists for Archie. I think even Dan Parent is still doing still drawing Archie even to this day. But they kind of approached me and they said, "Hey, we're doing this special story with Archie and this new character who they're introducing, and she's on the spectrum. So we need someone to letter this story." And I'm like, "Absolutely!" And then it became a regular thing where it wasn't an ongoing series. It was more like a per project basis. So I was dealing with not only Dan and Fernando, actually just Fernando on the series, but also the Archie co-CEO, Nancy Silberkleit. And she emails me directly, and we've been doing a lot of projects with Scarlet, which is the new character, and these new Archie stories. And I even got to one of the stories. I even got to ink and color and letter over Fernando. So yeah, it was a triple threat for me.
That's
one of the stories.
That's just amazing. That's just absolutely amazing. So I mean, being part of like the convention scene, being part of some of these labels like Archie. I mean, and your own there with Great North and ChapterHouse. I mean, how has that been as an experience for you as an artist? I mean, do you see like an evolution for you over the years? Like, how do you?
Definitely, as an artist, I definitely see a huge sense of growth. I mean, for any artist really that can kind of attest to this, but like looking at your old work and kind of cringing at the old stuff. But there was definitely an evolution, because when I started with ChapterHouse, it was only just lettering, and then I went from that to cover art, and then even to interior art, and I became more involved, especially as a becoming the social media manager for them, and so I started wearing many hats with them.
No, for
And
sure. I mean, I'd assume you would, because there's always a need, right? Especially with companies like that. And I mean, you're doing this now full time, right? From what you were mentioning.
yeah, so with them, it's the lettering is full time. A lot of I do a lot of lettering for other indie titles and people who come my way. The occasional Archie story.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. And to me, that this just from the beginning of this interview and until right now, it almost feels like a Cinderella story. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm not trying
I can see that.
I'm not trying to say you're Cinderella, but
I got a dress.
Yeah, that's all good. My kids make me wear the tutu all the time. It's awesome. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like where you've kind of started from like a point where you felt yourself that you were challenged. You weren't motivated to do something that you thought you were very passionate about, which is gaming. But then, bringing it up a whole other way into comic books, into illustration, into working with companies like Archie Comics, Dan Parent you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my kids have books of his with like the Archie and Kiss, which is amazing. Like,
oh yeah, I have that too. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that stuff. Like, the Die Kitty Die is an amazing series. I mean, it's great what he does, and being able to be to work with people like that in the world of Archie, in the world of ChapterHouse Comics, Captain Canuck, Richard Comley. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I remember as a kid. I know you said you weren't that familiar, but Captain Canuck. I mean, I always when you saw it, I'd always assume, oh, that's just the Canadian version of Captain America, right? Like I didn't look at like Alpha Flight so much. I actually knew Captain Canuck. That's how I thought here in Canada. So I mean, that was a pretty significant thing for myself. And I mean, watching your work is absolutely amazing. So I mean, that being said, what can we expect to see from you in the near future? Are there any projects that you want to discuss and explain a little bit about?
Well, we're currently working on Auric issue 6, which is the final issue in the current storyline.
Okay.
And while we're doing that, the next storyline is being worked on, as well as this special. It's kind of like one-shot series called Long Winter, which is another Oryx story, but in his early days, basically after his whole transformation thing, and that. Because that is going to be done by a bunch of different artists, so it's kind of like an anthology, but it's one story, and like every few pages is done by a different artist, and it's going to be and I've seen some of the work so far, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Mike Root's doing the cover, and we've posted this progress pic, and he's doing this giant close-up image of Auric.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be like a double-sided cover.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then so we're doing that. Still working on
Mike Ruth. I mean, he worked on Conan, on Red Sonja. He's done all that stuff. I mean, being able to work with him, how's that been too?
Oh, nothing short of phenomenal. Look, the guy is a machine. The guy is one of the nicest guys in the biz. He's a really good friend to us. I've time and again I'll get him for some tips and stuff here and there, and he's always more than willing. But yeah, so he's nothing but nice to us, and such a sweet guy. And his work speaks for himself. The guy's amazing.
No, for sure. I mean, we had him in the original film a while back in 2016. We had you in there. I mean, I remember a while back as well. I think I originally met you at the Ottawa Comic Con, correct? It was way back.
It's that's where we did it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been that. I mean, that alone was like 5 years ago. So I mean, it's nice to see that you've come a long way from like from what you originally started doing into where you are now. And yeah, I mean, is there also? I mean, aside from that, like, do you have any tips for guys trying to break into the business right now, trying to get in, and something that you can share a little bit of advice on your end?
Yeah, definitely. One tip that I remember, and this is actually was a tip from Ty Templeton, and it was that drawing and all that, and that creative element is a skill, and it's not necessarily a talent. And like any other skill, you can practice it, and it's like flexing a muscle, or exercising that muscle and skill. You can get better at it. There are ways. There is the right way to do things, and steps on how to achieve that. So people who say they can't draw, I just have never really tried exactly. So there's there's that, and never don't give up, and just keep on practicing, keep on going, and don't let yourself get burned out, because there's a lot of people who I find that they push themselves right to the core and they experience a terrible burnout. And I'm definitely one of those people who has experienced that, where there are some days where you just don't want to do anything.
Yeah, we all get that, I think, from time to time. I mean, I started drawing. I can attest to the fact that I'm not saying I'm a pro yet, but I'm practicing myself. I'm trying to do some cover work. I'm posting them up, and I'm noticing a gradual, improvement. I still don't. I feel like we're always judging ourselves, trying to see how good we are, and we're always critiquing ourselves more than anyone. But and I'm sure you experienced that some on your own. Like, do you feel like you critique yourself a lot?
Oh, all the time. We definitely we are our own worst critics,
Yeah.
and I'd look at something that I would have done a couple days ago, and I'm like, you know what, I could have done that better, or I
Yeah.
could something. There's things that you see now, and you're like, yeah, wish I did that differently.
And it's
Or
amazing because I wish I could be like you. Like, I wish I could draw like you. I'd be like, everything you do is amazing. So I mean,
and I'm in the same boat too when I look at like my inspirations like Greg Capullo and even Scotty Young, and the way his cartoony caricature styles, and they're so exaggerated. And I'm like, I love that, and
yeah.
you want to be as good as them. So it's don't be afraid to take some chances and just keep pushing yourself, practice those skills.
No, for sure. Well, you know what? Thank you, Andrew, for coming on to the show today. I appreciate your time and your efforts here. Definitely, guys, check out more of Andrew's work. All the info's been below there for a while, so if you want to circle back and look at the episode again to get some of his info, he's got his Instagram up and everything else. Thanks again, Andrew. I appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing more of your beautiful work. And yeah, take care there. Hey,
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you.
thank you. Thanks, guys. So, yeah, we're going to go now into our next segment here. So, for our next segment, we're just going to go right into the comics vault, which we have for this week. So, for this episode, we're actually not going to show a comic book like in our last one. We're actually going to go to another art book, The Art of Deja Torres. Pick this up on Amazon. Great little book here by Dynamite. It's got, I mean, it's more of a visual reference. But if you like Deja Torres, if you like the John Carter series, and the Mars series that he's got going for years, I love the movie as well years ago on Disney. It was an awesome movie. But this work is just, if you follow the Dynamite work, I mean, that definitely has like the nudes in there as well. So just for the parents out there, it all is in this. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely see the kind of artwork, just incredible artwork here. Uh, for Deja Torres, for John Carter, definitely incredible. I mean, you can pick this up. It says here for $39.99 US. So you're looking about $45 ish to $50 Canadian. But if you want a really cool visual reference of Deja Torres, definitely highly recommended. And for our toy and collectibles segment for today, we're actually going to do a quick review here of another really cool figure that I've got. It is a limited thing from the Fantastic Four that I've got here. And this is a 343 of 2,500, so it's very limited. As you guys can see that right there, 343 of 2,500. So we're going to check this out. We're going to open this up and take a quick peek here and see what we've got in this box. This is an older figure that you can probably from a few years back. I mean, if I can even see a year here. This is from 2007, so it's well over 10 years old now. But a very cool bust of Mr. Ben Grimm himself, the Thing. And we're going to take a nice quick peek at it. There you go. Another great visual reference for us artists out there. And just for people who collect cool statues, this is absolutely cool as hell. Full 3D bust of Mr. Ben Grimm himself. And as I said, limited. So limited to the 2,500. Great little figurine. Love to have this like right in front of my desk and just pop it up. And anytime I want to draw him, great to have. So yeah, thanks guys for coming onto the show. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel that we've got. We're also going to be on Twitch very soon. And as I mentioned, we do have the show coming up this summer, July of 2020. You can expect to see us on Amazon Prime and other streaming services. We're going to actually be on about 30 to 50 other streaming services. We're still trying to figure all that out right now. But yeah, thanks again, Andrew, for coming onto the show. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Talk to you soon.